Everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
Hey everyone, I am John, and next to me is my buddy Alton.
Hello.
Today's show is been something. Oh man, it's been something we've been debating on big time. It's not an easy topic, and that's racism in America right now. I mean, it's overwhelming the media all over the U.S. and all over the world. I think they started protesting over in France yesterday.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of people hurting right now, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people feeling pain on all sides, if that's a thing. And so, yeah, when John and I were thinking about doing this, we kind of thought, okay, what a couple of typical white guys gonna say about racism in America,
exactly,
or these other things that are going on. So, here's the disclaimer, right? A couple of white guys talking about racism. What do we know? Like, I'll allow that argument, but just to say so, I think that there's a lot of other guys like us that, are kind of sitting around wondering how to process everything that's happening, and not just white guys. So, I mean,
yeah,
everyone, I think. And so rather than just avoid the topic, we're gonna speak into it. So, hopefully we don't hurt too many people's feelings, but yeah, it's, I've done it before and I'll do it again. So can I apologize in advance?
yeah, and this is to bring light to the issues. There's things being said that I think have been false from the beginning. So we'd like to give some information that we've looked up and seen. I have a wife that's of color, and me and her have been talking heavily about this issue. So I've learned stuff from her. I have not, in all disclosure, I have not watched the full video of George Floyd in that instance. And I don't think I really care to see anything like that. It's just like back in the day when Bush started the war overseas. There was a media person got their head cut off, and they recorded it, and it went viral.
Yep.
No, I didn't want to see it. Don't care. I'll take your word for it. But and then I don't think you have or care to see the video either. It's too hurtful for you.
Yeah, I watched that beheading that you referenced when I was probably 19, 20, and I realized, like, I don't want to watch that. I know it happens, and honestly, I think that has contributed to a lot of the outrage. And I could be way off on this, but when you watch something like that, there's things that you can't unsee, and it's not John Wick. It's not Hollywood, And when you expose yourself to that, especially if that's for the first time, it takes a lot to process that. And that's really what our podcast is about. That's why we call it The Deciding Factor, because we know that there's hard issues to process. This is certainly a hard issue to process. I don't care who you are. There's a lot of pieces in it, and that's what we want to do is today is just like, let's just talk about this. I think I speak for John in saying we don't have all the answers, but maybe we can bring something up that you can consider, or call us crazy or whatever. But we need to have a lot of information when we're approaching this, right?
Yeah, open the dialogue, right?
Yeah, and to be open and to listen. And I think that if I'm not hearing anything else, it's like, listen, right? Listen to what people are saying. People want to be heard. People want to be understood, and I'm acknowledging that for sure. And for me, I grew up in a white town. I mean, there's like one black person in the town that I grew up in, and I thought he was a great guy, but that poor guy took a lot of heat.
Did he?
Yeah, I mean, it's the town I grew up in was not the best if you were a man of color. Now, when my parents got divorced, I moved to a different town for a couple of years, and then I was the minority in that school.
Yeah.
And that was in 5th and 6th grade. And so I had to learn what widow was. And so I was like constantly picked on because I was the white kid. And I've never looked at anything in a race way. Like I was thinking about prepping for this show, and literally I just got back from a fishing trip with my Hispanic friend and a black guy that I met, and he actually ended up catching the biggest fish, and he's a great guy, and I'm like following him on Facebook and some of the things that he's saying, and he's the man of God, and when I met him, it was like he felt like a good guy, good stock, and like this week, he woke up like after all of this protesting and everything's going on, and his truck had been stolen.
Oh no!
And he goes, "This is what he said." So, black man has his truck stolen in this environment, and he says, "I should have pulled it up," but basically he says, "I'm not going to let anyone steal my joy. God has put me here to shine my light, and even though today is especially hard, no one's stealing my joy. So everybody in the comment section below, post Bible verses that you cling to help you remember joy." And so that was really inspirational to me. So anyway, just a little preface to say, John's not racist. I'm not racist. We don't think of ourselves as such anyways.
No.
But no one's perfect. We all have biases. And I think we need to, in this time, we really need to look at what those biases are, because I'll definitely raise my hand and say I'm biased for sure.
Yeah. So in regards to everything that's going on, let's break it down into 3 different areas. We've got the George Floyd issue with cops. Then let's break it down to the protesting and rioting that has taken place. And then let's talk about what's been done in the past. How do we solve this going forward? So first and foremost, let's, the George Floyd issue. Hands down, obviously, I believe most of the evidence has come out, and the officer that choked him out is looking pretty guilty, and it was wrong of what he was doing. So now the problem you're going to run into, though, is every time somebody gets taken down to the ground to get handcuffed, everybody's going to be watching to see if the cop puts his knee on the neck, the upper back. But when you're restraining a guy, you control a man by his head, because he can't get up if his head's on the ground. Now, primarily, obviously, we try to put our knee in the back of somebody's back to keep them down, and he had it on his neck, and it was a prolonged period of time. So keep in mind, you're not a police officer. You haven't been in an academy. You don't get trained on this on a daily basis. You don't deal with what they deal. So don't be so quick to jump to conclusions. But it was verified by 2 examiners. He was asphyxiated, so he did die from air being cut off. Now, originally, here's where it gets crazy. The media right away said he was pulled over, stopped, and harassed by the cops due to him having a fake $20 bill. That is not totally correct. So during the arrest, there are a few different things that went down. Yes, he had fake money, but they don't talk about the white baggie that he dropped while he was under arrest, which is something I found out in the last 48 hours looking into all this for the show. I will post a link in the description to where you can go see it yourself. He does drop a white baggie of substance. Autopsy does show that he had fentanyl in his system, which is not good. And if you look at his criminal record, he's got a record. So one of the other videos I saw was a lady that a black lady that talked about this whole instance and her opinion about it. It kind of brought some light to everything. I will also post that video so you can watch it and make up your own opinion, because all this is mostly opinions at this point. But
And you got to be careful on the internet always,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's
yeah,
I edit photos and video all the time.
yeah,
So, you know, when I'm scrolling, I'm always taking everything with a grain of salt, and I'm unapologetically taking things with a grain of salt always.
But one of her points that she made is, let's not glorify him, because it does seem like a lot of the media is making him out to be this innocent human being, godlike or whatever. And let's pump your brakes on that. Yes, it was a horrible instance. He should have never died. Unfortunately, he did. And what also gets me in that whole situation is this individual, the cop, I think his name's Derek, but he's had previous issues. I think they said 18 issues that they've had with him in investigations.
18.
18. I think it started out at 14 is what they said, and the last one I heard is 18. I'm sorry, that's too much. Why are you having these many issues and nothing's been resolved?
Right. Which I think was the big outcry originally.
Right.
Was, okay, we have this problem that many people witnessed of a man, you know, being murdered, executed, dying at the hands of the cop sitting right there in his custody.
Uh-huh.
And then nothing happened. Right. And that, to me, my impression of the outcry originally was more about bringing awareness to the fact that it wasn't just that he was, killed. It was that the cops are still on duty.
Yeah.
The ones that killed him are still driving around. Nothing's happening. So 100% from me, that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Right? Which I think, Trump's like, hey, if you're not going to do it, like FBI's going to do it, let's get some attention to where it's needed. And me being a white guy and a guy who is very biased towards recognizing tyranny and any abuse of power, that's what I saw immediately was there's some big corruption here in that someone can stop breathing under the custody of the cops and nothing happens there.
Yeah.
And even when I was growing up, like that's always been something that I've struggled with is authority and big government and overreaching. Now Trump's sending the National Guard into these cities, which is making me crazy. Like putting military on the American people is just in so many ways nuts to me. But having said all that, like even when I was growing up, there was a cop because I thought, oh, maybe I could be a cop. I feel like I've got a skill set that would make me a decent cop. I'm pretty unbiased. I'm a pretty nice guy. And, I train jujitsu. Like I can handle myself okay. And I think that I'm calm and collected. I could do a good job at this. So I'm riding around with these cops seeing, is this a thing that I want to do? And the long story short is that I saw, who cops deal with? Crappy people.
Yeah.
All the time, every day. They're strung out on drugs. They're beating somebody. It's just, that's the world that they live in is all the bad people. And at however old I was like, there is no way I could live like that. I don't see how police officers do. They deal with the most crappy people in the world. And then they just come home and like,
You got to be with your family.
Yeah, man, that's, and for me, I go, man, I can't do that. And so I'm not justifying anything, but the cop that I rode around with, a couple years after I was riding around with him, which I had the utmost respect, I thought, oh man, this guy's really, really a good guy. I find out he's pulling girls over, turning off his camera and saying, hey, take your shirt off and you don't have to worry about getting a ticket. And this is in like a small rural Texas, right? This guy got fired though. And he's lucky that's all he got. Lucky that wasn't one of my 4 daughters.
Yeah.
So I said all that just to say, in my experience, that was a white cop and I'm white and there's all these white girls in that scenario. And I'm still like, justice needs to be served. In this case, the guy just got fired or whatever. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm still hot thinking about it. So I can only imagine how emotionally charged, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm emotionally charged right now. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I'm trying to understand where people are coming from in that.
In full disclosure, I was in the police academy.
Oh.
I dropped out in order to take care of my oldest daughter through some issues that were going on. So I didn't get to finish fully, but it's, I got to see a lot of different things that they had to deal with. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I'm obsessed with Live PD, so I'm always watching the crap that goes on there. And if you don't watch that, you should probably watch it just to see what they deal with, their body language they have to watch. I mean, you never know who's going to kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the first things they did in the police academy is you sat down and you watched several cops get killed. Mm. They want you to know how dangerous this is and can you handle it?
Yeah.
I mean, they showed so many videos where even down here, just down south in Kyle, state trooper walks up, no time to react, boom, dead.
Game over.
And that sucks.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking that even on a regular routine traffic stop, that could be it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it sucks. And I will say, looking at that prior video to before Floyd ever even got put on the ground, it looked like it was a drug deal going on. I could be wrong, but like I said, I'm only going off of this other angle of footage that they're not passing around in the media.
Well, and but, and to me, okay, which I support having law and order. Okay, I'm super pissed as a business owner that businesses are getting sacked, and set on fire. The 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu out in California got burnt. Wow. I was listening to one of the Gracie guys up in New York. These guys trying to roll through there and bust things up, and I got a real problem with that. But another thing that I had a problem with before any of this George Floyd race thing happened was I'm getting set off watching these New York cops just arrest people for walking down the sidewalk in coronavirus. Hey, you're out past curfew. You better do what I say. You can't stand here on the sidewalk. Who do you think you are, an American citizen? You better get in your house. What? I mean, he's not saying it like that, but guys that are just standing there on the sidewalk, the cops are sitting there instigating and then arresting them. And they're just sitting there going, hey, look at the Constitution, dude. You can't make us sit in our house. Who do you think you are? And these cops were just total jerks. And so I'm sitting here, I'm all set up, and I don't even remember white cop, black guy, black cop, white guy. It's tyranny, man, and it's tyranny, and that really upsets me. And I think we've all been cooped up in our house. We've been told what to do, like little sheep just sitting in our house, losing money, losing all of these things.
We're on
and
edge
then this
already.
happens. It looks like a recipe for a lot of problems to me.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, there's absolutely some issues in the police force, but I don't think it's as bad as everybody's making it out to be, especially the media.
Yeah, when was the last time that the cameras were rolling on all the good cops?
I mean, define good cop. That's
The guys that go out every day, the guys that patrol in my neighborhood that I wave to while I run, the guys that I drive by, the state troopers that pull me over, all the guys that pulled me over on my motorcycle when I had it. I've been there. One time when I got pulled over on my motorcycle, dude pulled the gun, put it in my face. He was a total jerk. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? I'm sitting here on a motorcycle. Whoa, but you were going fast. I'm like, okay. I'm sitting here. You see my hands and you got a gun in my face. Can you put that up?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I see it, but there's a lot of good cops too. Later on, that guy holstered it and then we had a really good conversation. And, he was like being a nice guy to me. So, and he was not a white cop either, for the record.
Yeah. So I wanted to get a whole lot of numbers out there just to have something to compare to. So let's start out. Census shows that as far as the population goes, whites make up 76.5% and blacks only make up 13.4%. The rest is all the other races. In 2019, out of the 375 million contacts that police made with individuals, there were 1,004 that were fatally shot, and 25% of them made up the black population, which has been the same ratio since 2015, roughly. Mm-hmm. So I would think that this number might be bigger the way media and everyone else makes it out to be. Don't you think?
Wait, you said 1,000 people were fatally shot.
Yeah, and these
25% were
black,
but there's only 13% black people that make up the entire population.
True.
Right? So that means that in my head, twice as many black people are being shot per capita than white.
Right.
Right.
But there's a whole lot more data. And
well, that's kind of what people are looking at, though.
Yeah.
Right.
So to add to it, let's go back to accounting. I can look at a P&L sheet and I can give you 2 or 3 different answers to one topic. So I'm not telling you this is the end all data.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You have to put these things together yourself. I'm just giving you what I found, mm-hmm. and then we can go from there. Another thing with 2019, out of all those fatalities, there were only 9 black people that were unarmed that were killed by cops. 19 were white. So there were more white people killed than blacks as far as unarmed, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. That compared to even 2015, it was 38 black, 32 white. So a little different, but there's not this big, overwhelming thing that sticks out in my opinion. Plus, the National Academy of Science also did the study, and verbatim their words are, there's no significant evidence of anti-black disparity in the likelihood of being fatally shot by the police.
Does it say who did the shooting in those statistics?
No.
So then there is a chance that black people shot white people, or white people shot black, or black people shot black, or white people shot white.
Yeah, there's a multitude. Then there was a 2018 thing that said, in which full data has been published. It shows that 53% of the homicides were black people. 60% of robberies were also black people.
Is that what you're saying? Convicted of these crimes?
Yes. And so, they only make up 13% of the population, but those numbers are high.
I would agree with that.
So,
yeah, because again, if 13% of the population is black and 60% You were citing specific crimes, though.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it was homicides and robberies is
Okay,
what
so
they were the
homicides,
highest in.
right? Which
Yeah.
is kind of what we're talking about. If you wanted to get really technical, like you would probably have to do the 13% times.
But see, if we're talking about crooked cops being the ones that are racist on this, I mean, we're talking homicides and robberies. You don't go to jail primarily unless you have evidence. Now, yes, there's all these video or movies on Netflix that have shown some really bad racist times for Black Americans. There was a group of 4 or 5 black males that really lost their whole life to some crooked cops.
Yeah.
I mean, as kids, I mean,
sure.
it sucked. I watched that show with my wife, and stuff like that pisses me off.
Yeah, and all we're trying to do here is like let's look at some data.
Yeah.
And try to understand a situation and what we can do about it too.
So just before we move on to the next part of our conversation, I will post a link. The FBI posted a thing from 2017 that shows all of the crimes that happened in America during 2017. And there's over 8 million total cases, right? And it ranges from murder down to suspicion, curfew, I mean, it's a slew of things. And when you look on here, the white population takes up a lot. I mean, it's 5.6 million.
It's crazy white people.
Cases. I know. I mean, they really do primarily take over a lot of these crimes, which honestly, going into this topic, I was thinking, number one, if we are very racist, then it should definitely be pretty lopsided here, right? I mean, that's what goes through my head.
Well,
but
we're maybe not racist, but even racist cops, right?
Yeah. So the only areas in which white people didn't take the highest number on was murder and manslaughter. And then the other was robbery and then gambling, which is weird. So black people took up those 3 categories.
So gambling's a crime then? Is that unless you're in Vegas and then it's okay.
Unless you're in Vegas.
But see, I mean, I think that's kind of some of the, I hope y'all can hear my dog barking. Somebody probably let the cat in the house and they're doing it. I think that's what, at least for me, when you see this injustice, we all want justice, no matter what statistic we're looking at or whatever.
Yeah.
No one, and I'll be the first to say that life is not fair. And if you're looking for fair, good luck. When you find it, let me know. I think we each have our own unique gifts and life's not fair. So here we are. But
one more thing. The other category that whites didn't take over was suspicious people. Right away, I'm thinking...
I've seen some shady white dudes. I saw one the other day in my neighborhood, actually.
Well, but honestly,
we're talking shady, really shady.
But we're talking about possibly having a whole lot of racism in America and cops picking on
white guy. Actually.
Cops picking on blacks. No, whites and blacks didn't take this category. It was American Indian or Alaskan Native. They won it, 38.6% to 37 and 22.
So I think
that'll be posted. The link will be posted.
John and I, well, I am not saying, we're not looking at these statistics saying that that racism does not exist. Clearly, we have some bleed over from American history, slavery, Civil War. Like, we've got history.
Yeah.
And, I actually, I've been around some family that's totally racist. Yeah. I mean, totally racist. It was an older guy, and he saw some kids, and he's just calling them the N-word. And this dude's like 70 years old, and I'm like, man, these dudes are going to beat you up, and I'm going to stand here.
Yeah.
Because, you earned that.
Yeah.
And I'm like the first to defend the innocent, right? So certainly it exists.
But one of the statements you said was whites make up this 70% of the population, And if you compare the amount of people that were unarmed, murdered by the cops, that it matches up to that. But here's the problem. Out of all the actual homicides, 53% of the homicides are black. So we've got a different set of numbers we're looking at. You know, the majority of people that are being killed is blacks. So they should possibly have a higher number as far as who the cops are killing. It's not. Whites are taking up more than double of what the blacks have as far as being killed by a cop.
Yeah.
So I think the media is taking a lot of, oh, you see this white cop killing the black guy, and they're making all cops out to be bad. It's like, we got to chill.
Well, and that's the thing, right? We have to make sure that we are not manipulated by the media. I'm going to say that again. We need to be sure that we are not being manipulated by the media. The older I get, the crazier I get, whatever you want to call it, the more I look out and see sheep that are just manipulated. It wasn't too long ago, and I don't remember the guy's name, but like things were going crazy in San Antonio. People just driving by, just shooting cops. I think 1 or 2 cops. Mm-hmm. They just got shot, like executed, you know? And I'm all for justice. How is that justice? Yeah. Looting someone's business, how is that justice? Which leads me to the other point about being manipulated, is that we've got groups that are inciting these peaceful protests, and we're seeing it. Yeah. And so you have this, personally, my beliefs are that you certainly have pockets of racism and skewed statistics, right? And it may be that way in Minneapolis. I don't know. Maybe that way in Chicago. I don't know. I can only speak to what I experience, right? And I don't live in those communities. I don't live in California. I live in Texas, okay? And I can only speak to what I know. But I'm saying that I do believe that bad things happen in a lot of places. We need to want justice, but we need to strategize what the best way is. And when we're trying to start a movement for justice, we can't have people coming in and hijacking it. And, hey, we want to do a peaceful protest, and then have a bunch of people come in delivering pallets of bricks to mess that up. You know, that's where I feel like right now, if you want to call it the BLM or whatever, whoever is wanting justice and equality, like, you've got the world stage, and I've heard some other people say it, you have the world stage right now, leverage it. Burning down my business and like ripping truckers out of their truck and beating them to death, shooting other black cops. Like, that's not serving your purpose. It's not serving your purpose. I think the entire world can get behind justice. I think. Yeah.
I mean, so this is all what led to all the protesting around, is we've had a few black people that have gotten killed recently, like within the last month, you know, and it's been all over the media, and
within the last week, and all these protests. Yeah. Like, they've gone around and just literally killed cops that were black.
That too. Yeah.
And so that's where, in my opinion, you have to start questioning what's actually going on here. Do I think it's the BLM that's going around and doing that? I don't think so. Is it all the peaceful protesters? I don't think so. I think that there's some deeper things at work that are trying to incite division. You know, I mean, my neighbor's black. If I go talk to him, we're gonna hug it out. We're not. You know, like, you know, so I know that these things happen, but I think that there's also people there's some things at work that's trying to create division, and we need to be very savvy to that and watching out for that, and not letting that ruin the the movement for justice?
Well, now keep in mind, protesting versus the rioting that's going on, two different things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people getting upset, and I've even had people reach out to me saying that, we tried to do it the nice way by, taking a kneel or whatever. And it's like, no. It's never going to be okay to turn protesting into rioting. I'm sorry. If you don't agree with that, I'm never going to be on the same page with you. I'll give you an example. If the KKK were to take their peaceful protesting that they do every once in a while all over the country, including downtown Austin.
Do they do that? Really?
Yeah. But, they get
It's bold, man.
Yeah. I mean, they get their license to protest and walk down, I think it's Congress, where they normally do. And, they don't do anything. They don't riot. They don't do anything like that. But if they were to turn their protest into destruction and rioting, are you going to be okay with that? I'm not. So why would I be okay with Antifa doing it?
No,
I'm not
okay with it, because that's in my opinion, the businesses are what's fueling the economy, life. And I've had some people say, man, Alton, you're so hardcore Constitution. Like, what do you think the Boston Tea Party was? Right? Like, hey, man, even the founding fathers, that's what they did, is they went and looted a bunch of stuff. And that one's hard for me, if I'm honest. Yeah. But for me, it was about tyranny, and it was about protesting tyranny. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you that one. That if taking a knee or just asking politely doesn't work, but, you want to make a change, I'm not saying it's good. I'm acknowledging that our forefathers did it, and I get where you're coming from. But if I'm on that ship and you come on there to loot, I do believe that I have an unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and you throwing my products overboard is not that. Well, but even then, if you want to talk about that, they dressed up as Indians to do it, didn't they? Maybe I should check my facts, but there's some deception going on, guys, and you got to watch out for that. So they said, oh, we're going to get the British. I probably should have fact-checked this. I got all my fact-checkers here. Better not check the comments. That's how I remember it.
So, going back to some of the comments I received earlier this week is, the point of you've got to get attention somehow to the topic. Is protesting going to be it? Like, how do you really get the attention needed to reach an all-end goal to help everyone? And I don't know fully how you can do that.
Well, I've been watching the Hong Kong protests, and they had millions down there, right? Mm-hmm. Cops fighting the...
what were they protesting?
Hong Kongians, I guess. And...
what were they protesting, though?
What do you call people from Hong Kong? I don't know.
Chinese?
I'm so uncultured. Yeah, but they're like separate from China. And that's what's happened just now, is that China just said, oh, by the way, Hong Kong, you're China now. And China's like, what? Right? And so Hong Kong's been protesting for their freedoms totally peacefully. Like, the cops are shooting tear gas, and these guys are running out there, and they're putting pylons on there and like putting them out, like super peaceful, right? Like, the cops, in my mind, as someone who's biased against tyranny, I'm like, man, these cops are being shady. These protesters are even letting traffic through and then putting their barricades back. Yeah. It was the most beautiful, peaceful protest that I've seen, and it went on for a long time. Millions out there. And then what happens? China's like, no, I don't care what you think. We're taking over.
Yeah.
That's where I got to be honest. It gets hard for me, because now what do? They did millions of people peaceful protesting for weeks.
Yeah.
To what? To no avail. I'm just saying,
yeah,
I have some empathy there. peaceful protesting didn't work with the British here. So when someone says that, I get it.
Yeah.
I hear you, but I also understand if that's my business and you want to come and loot my business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Antifa posted a thing that said they were going to take it to the suburbs.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not.
I mean, you talk about starting and opening up a can of worms. Oh, I'd hate to see you try to do that in Texas. I mean, it'd be a killer. So let's move on to the other portion, which is what has anyone done to help move this forward? We've had all the protesting. We've had the rioting. But over the years, what has been done? You had Colin Kaepernick. You know, he did his little kneeling for the anthem, which, you know, Drew Brees just apologized for talking about.
Oh, he did?
Not, yeah.
Oh.
So he didn't like I guess LeBron James saying something about taking a kneel for the flag. And, you know, LeBron James called him out and basically said, you know, it's disrespectful to not be a part of it now. And it's like, whoa, your disrespect is not the same as my disrespect. I think you should stand for the flag just like a lot of Americans do, like a lot of military personnel believe so.
Yeah, man, I'm all about America, but man, I'm 100% all in on protesting and the freedom of speech. And I don't like the idea, because I feel like I'm a patriot, that someone would bring shame to the nation like that. But man, if you can't respect someone who can take a knee for what they believe in front of all those people and take all the, you know, I'm proud of that aspect of it, you know, but I'm not going to sit here and.
But I mean, you can't judge somebody that's full on military and thinks that it's disrespectful to take a knee, just like maybe those that do shouldn't think that of somebody that takes a knee, as long as it's known. It's just like the N-word. I don't want to hear anybody say the N-word, black, white, Hispanic, nothing. Don't want to hear it. But apparently there's, you know, black people are okay to say the N-word. I don't agree with that. And I think I've had other people of other colors say they don't like it either. It's just like,
well, if it's derogatory, it's derogatory. But
I mean, you know,
your friends, you can be derogatory towards each other.
If we're joking around, you know, I could flick you off and you might laugh or giggle about it. If my mom were to see me do it, she'd be pissed off either way, no matter who's doing it.
Yeah, she might kick your butt.
So everybody has their own opinions of what's respectful and disrespectful. So
I think that's it, though, that if you live in America, you need to respect someone's freedom to speech or freedom of speech. But man, you got freedom of speech too. Yeah. So you can let them know, hey man, that's disrespectful. Yeah. Someone died for that flag and you're going to take a knee. And he's going to say, yeah, I respect that. But look at the tyranny that's happening today. Are you okay with that? Oh, maybe we could even have a conversation and become friends. And I mean, but just pointing the finger and not coming up with a solution is a problem. And that's what I think I want to address, because, hang on, I'm going to pull this up.
So while you're doing that, you know, there's a lot of people that during the Colin Kaepernick time, it was Black Lives Matter, and then there were All Lives Matter. And I've always been an All Lives Matter just because of the fact that I grew up as a firefighter, volunteer. It doesn't matter who you are. I'm coming to help you, period.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that's been going on, cops getting killed, civilians getting killed, black people getting killed.
I don't want people getting killed.
I don't want anybody getting killed.
For sure.
But my wife did tell me something great, and it really gave me some perspective that I wanted to share. She gave me the example of if your neighbor's house is burning down, the firefighters are not going to come and douse all the houses around. They're going to put that fire out first. Right? The same way that some of them look at Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're being assaulted for being black in America due to all the issues.
For sure.
And that's kind of her perspective she gave me. And I love her to death for doing that. It gave me a different view on it, you know?
Yeah, no, and I think that's good. And I think that's part of us as white folk. listening. And by the way, Boston Tea Party, the history.com confirms that they did dress up as Indians. So I am not.
you were bothered about that.
I'm not making that up. So here's the thing, though. Justice. What do we do? I've been talking for a long time. I mean, because I'm biased against tyranny and oppression and abuse of power, I'm sensitive to these things. So when I see, and I'm also in the jiu-jitsu community, which means I'm also sensitive to the best way to manipulate your body against your will, right? Yeah. And how to choke you out the fastest, and all of these things. Yeah. These are things that I dedicate hours, years, blood, sweat, tears of my life, my body, to understand. And when I watch some of the police handling suspects, I'm like, dude, you would get destroyed in a jiu-jitsu match. You have no idea how to do this calmly and professionally. And that pisses me off. If you are...
So you think they need to be trained more on hand-to-hand combat?
For sure. For sure. And I've been feeling this way before last week, before last year.
But now they're talking about getting rid of cops.
Well,
yeah,
it's
the same people that ate the Tide Pods.
Well, yeah, until the guys
or the people that don't
door.
Want gas and oil in our country, but yet they fly a private jet to the Capitol.
Here's the thing: if you're gonna have to handle criminals that are on drugs, you need to be properly trained to handle that. And I think it was. Y'all are just going to have to get used to me not fact checking. It's not going to happen. I think it was Jocko was talking about, he's speaking into this as just, someone who has a lot of experience and many of he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, but he's also a Navy SEAL. So when he talks, I listen to what he says. And
because you don't want to get hurt.
Well, definitely. But, he's like, look, we got to train these guys. And that's not going to fix racism. Okay? It's not going to fix racism. But it may help in the deaths, right? Like, love is what fixes racism. I don't know how to train cops to love. I don't know how to train you to love, John. I'm trying to train myself to love more, right? The example of love is Jesus. I'm not there yet. None of us are there yet. That's the solution for hate. That's what the leaders in these big civil rights movements, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and I'm drawing a blank now, but the guy that was in prison for like 20 years in Africa. Anyway, made a movie about him. So these guys, they're calling on their people to love and to forgive. And that's a harder thing to teach, but we can certainly train. And it's a tough one, but definitely I think we need to be training more. And I would like to see BLM type people talking into that as well. Cause I think it's not the answer, but I feel like it's it's a really nice Band-Aid. It's a really nice Band-Aid to keep things from escalating. Yeah. And I think that can certainly help with the tyranny for any race.
So we bounced around there. Let me go back to Colin Kaepernick, though. So he did that whole thing about taking a knee, got a whole lot of attention, got a big old Nike contract, right? What'd he do? Name one thing he actually accomplished for the black community in all this BS that he got attention for. Not a thing.
And I don't know if you can blame him for that. Can you?
Well,
I mean, I'm not holding him responsible for that.
I don't want to say I'm holding him responsible, but you had the spotlight. You had everybody looking at you. You had everybody talking about you. You wanted to bring it to the table for people to look at and everything. If you cared that much about the black population and the black community, why did you do nothing further?
Well, he's a football player. I mean, I don't know. if I agree that we're all under the obligation to.
But I'm going to call BS on it. I'm sorry. No, you had every chance that all these black Americans are screaming for. Mm-hmm. You know, some of them are trying to just get attention too, right? They want to be on camera, but there are a lot out there that are good individuals that want true change and reform.
Yeah.
Let me give you another one though.
I mean, I would certainly agree that that's a missed opportunity, but I don't know if I'd blame him for it. I think also right now we have a huge opportunity that I hope isn't missed. But I think also there's a lot of white guys sitting around like you and me that are not cops, that are not racist, going like, man, we want to do something, but.
Absolutely. I wish I could. You know,
my deal's like, hey, cops, come roll with me in jiu-jitsu. And then that way you're gonna feel more comfortable if you do get into an altercation and you can actually control someone much larger than you with.
But they deal with a whole different thing. When you do jiu-jitsu, you're not worried about guns, knives, or anything like that.
Yeah, but it's
they've got to worry and think about other things.
I get it, but back to where we started, a handcuffed man on his stomach.
Yeah, pushing down on his neck, period, didn't need to happen in that situation.
That's all I'm saying, right? That there's some better ways with better training. Again, doesn't fix racism.
Right.
I'm saying I don't know how to fix that, but.
Well, so another big person that had a chance to do something that a lot of people considered the savior, right? President Obama. 2 terms, 8 years. What did you do for the black community? Not really anything. I found this. It was on the web. It's the top 28 Obama achievements. And there's only a few that have anything to do with any kind of race or anything. You know, let's go to number 6. This is probably one of the biggest things that I remember him for. It was he supported the LGBT community fighting for marriage equality, right? Everybody remembers that. Love is love. But that's not even a race thing. But he really pushed that. Then number 7, commuted the sentences to nearly 1,200 drug offenders to reverse unjust and outdated prison sentences. Mm-hmm. Fairly good.
Yeah.
I credit for that. I would say Trump's been doing similar things his first term. Mm-hmm. But that's good. You know, it's a movement. Number 11, he signed a deferred action for childhood arrivals, allowing as many as 5 million people living in the U.S. legally to avoid deportation and receive work permits. Not the black community, but it's dealing with race. Number 19, improve school nutrition with the Healthy Hunger for Free Kids Act. The Hunger Free Kids Act, sorry. Obviously, I have been drinking today. Not true. But I mean, you would say the poverty line is primarily with the black community. So I would say that one counts for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen those statistics, but I think that, well, go ahead and finish your statistics.
Yeah, I only have 2 left. Number 21 was signed a Hate Crimes Prevention Act, making it a federal crime to assault anyone based on sex or gender identification. Goes back to the LGBT section. Mm-hmm. You know, that hits every race, not just one.
Sure.
So then number 27 launched My Brother's Keeper, a White House initiative designed to help young minorities achieve their full potential.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. That's big.
That's the top 28. Mm-hmm. Yes, I would agree with that one, but nothing much bigger. Well, he even had some of the bigger police brutality issues during his tenure, but nothing was put into place to help it. So
Did they ask you about that when you were in the academy? Like, are you a racist?
They do background checks, and throughout the academy, I mean,
do they ask your family if you're racist?
Not in the academy. Now, I did a third-party academy. If you go to someone like Austin Police Department, San Antonio, they do a really in-depth background. They will interview you.
Yeah, but do they ask if you're a racist?
Yes.
Okay.
They ask your parents. They check your social medias.
Because that would be
If you don't give them
thing.
access, they're not going to talk to you.
Yeah.
So they do a really good job, I would say, on the recruiting sector. Now, here's the deal. So when it comes to a solution, no one's really given any solutions. Racism in America, how do you get rid of it? I mean, my wife says it every day this week and last week, you got to take the hatred out of people's hearts, and you cannot teach your kids it. The problem is I can't force you, your neighbor, your parents to teach or raise their kids anyway.
Yeah, I think that the idea of like your brother's keeper and mentorship and rising above it is definitely a good start. I thought, one thing that I did want to say though was like Obama won the popular vote.
Okay.
At least in 2012 here, which tells me like the majority of America is not racist.
Sure.
But that doesn't matter.
Of course, the right side's going to say he didn't have any competition, which.
Well, whatever.
But it's okay. Yeah, I mean, I get it.
He was the first black president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
he served 2 terms.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter when racism is in your neighborhood.
Right.
Right. Like if someone's looting in Minneapolis, okay, that's their problem. But when it's in Alton's neighborhood, now it's a problem. So we're hearing from people, I think, who are in that space. And I think that we need to acknowledge it, but I think that we also need to encourage people in your place to fight against it. Like if it's happening here in Austin, you and I need to be participating in that. We don't necessarily need to go to California to participate in that. Like it's a different environment, fix you and fix your location. Yeah. Don't necessarily, I'm not saying we shouldn't, be empathetic to other locations, right? I'm just saying start where you are and do what you can where you are. And maybe where you are, it's not as big of a problem, or maybe where you are, it is a big problem and you need to stop ignoring it.
So back to the solutions though, none of these people have really taken their opportunity that they were given to find a solution, to even voice a solution.
Yeah.
In the last week, I've only heard one person give a decent solution, if any. And it was, I believe it's a black attorney from up north. He said, training the cops could be a better initiative. I think there's a lot of different training aspects that we could go over that would be a good idea. However, even though I don't have a voice like any of these people that have had it in the past, I did post the idea on my Facebook page, and I even went as far as I messaged the president's Facebook page to give the idea, just in hopes that some random person would bring light to it. And it's dealing with cops. They have at each precinct, at each office, they have internal affairs. Mm-hmm. The problem is the internal affairs is only for that department. So APD is watching out for APD. San Antonio's watching out for their own. Nix it. It needs to be taken up by the federal government.
Oh, I don't like that.
Or a third.
I'm disagreeing already.
Okay,
you said federal government. You hit a hot button.
Yeah. So federal government or a third party should take over.
Saying,
so take the money and
accountability
efforts away from internal affairs locally.
Right.
And then have one place where everyone can voice any concerns with any officer.
Yeah. Maybe like county.
Then there's no
state level.
Then there's no chance of buddy system.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So this officer that killed George Floyd, don't you think after number 2 or 3 or 10, somebody would have
corruption up the chain.
Somebody would have stepped in and said, "What the is going on here?" So it's doing something like that, I think, would be a solution. I'm not saying it's the end-all solution, but it's a great first start. I could be wrong. I don't care. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But if I get a voice, let's come up with a solution.
Yeah, I follow this guy. His name's Brendan Bouchard. I've read his book. It's called High Performance Habits. Really good book. It's actually, I think it was as a free podcast, so check it out. I just want to read what he said because I thought that what he said was really good. And this guy's kind of motto is, where is it? Oh, man. All right. One of these days, I'm going to be more prepared for you guys. But he just, it's like live, laugh, love or something, you know, bring the joy. He's just a really positive guy. And I love that about him. And he says, this is what I think that we should do. He says, immediately charge and imprison the other 3 officers who aided in the killing of George Floyd. Right? He's got a little check mark because that's happened. He says, number 2, pass new police brutality laws and new training in all 50 states. Right. And maybe if there were more police brutality laws in this scenario, maybe his buddies would have been like, yo, lighten up, man.
Yeah, those other guys were arrested.
I know. I'm saying if the police brutality laws were steeper, more significant, then maybe if you have a good friend, he's going, hey, man, do you really want to do this? Because why don't we just lighten up a little? Now, I'm just reading what he's saying. So number 3, reform criminal justice laws to end the discrimination of mass incarceration. I don't know exactly what all he means there, but I think maybe decriminalizing some things, right? To where you don't. Yeah. I mean, personally, if a dude's got a bag of cocaine and a $20 counterfeit bill, is it really worth all of this? Really? In my opinion, no, but you know, you decide. I'm just interpreting what I'm hearing here. Sure. And number 4, teach peace, acceptance, meditation, anger management, emotional intelligence in all schools. Okay, probably lost half the people if we hadn't lost them already there. It's like, what? These are real life things that we need, especially as police. Teach ethics, civil leadership, so more people understand what a peaceful protest looks like. And then number 5 is vote. So I want to thank him for putting that together. And I thought that was maybe not the best or the end all, but I'm on board with the direction that he's proposing for sure.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, and let's do this. So I dropped my notes.
Do we have the right button this time?
I should have the right button this time. So the deciding factor for today, and I'm going to let you start this time. Ooh, okay. Yeah, threw you under the bus already. Is racism a problem in America? You got your wheels turning. You ready for it?
I'm ready, man.
Are you sure?
I'm ready.
Now it's time for our deciding factor.
Okay, so John's got me up to bat here. Is racism a problem? Certainly, if there's racism anywhere, that's a problem. I think that we should all be teaching love and patience and raising our children to not be that way 100%. And I think that when you wink at that, you know, when you see it happening and you don't do anything, I think that you're condoning that. But I would say that racism is a two-way street. And I say that personally from experience as a little white kid that was picked on because I was white. Yeah, I mean, you might laugh at that. And I never really cared when they were calling me bad names as a white kid because I was like, I'm white. You got me.
Whoop-de-doo.
I didn't choose it. Here I am. I didn't really understand that was like a bad thing personally because I was never raised that black is bad, white is bad. I'm just like, what, you know, like actually in that school, my best friend was black. Yeah. So like for me, it was like not even a thing, but it certainly exists. And those people, they need to be loved. They need to be forgiven. And, you know, just like I mentioned, the people in my family, I don't know what took them to that place to where they had that view. I think that some people, I think that it's not the same. Like if you're a white guy racist towards black versus a black guy racist towards white guy, I don't think that it's the same. I do believe that poverty is a big problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the Black community, there's a lot of poverty. And whether you're white poverty, Black poverty, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we talk about business and money so much, or at least has undertones in our podcast, is because you would not be risking running into a Target to steal a pair of Nikes if you had 5 pairs at home. Am I wrong? I don't think you would. If you've got 15 big screen TVs at your house, are you really going to risk going in there and pulling one out? I don't think so. I think we're looking at impoverished people that are looking at a chance like, oh man, this could be a big deal right now. And so I think that we all need to be careful in calling something that's not racism, and not saying, oh, well, they're doing that because they're Black. Well, maybe they're poor and they don't have a lot of options right now, and they're really hurting and they don't know what else to do. It has nothing to do with race from that side. Yeah. And same thing with the police brutality. Maybe it's racism. Maybe it's just this dude's a jerk and has no self-esteem and is totally compensating in his life. His wife thinks he's worthless and he's got to go out and prove himself, and he's just a real jerk. And I don't know. I'm just saying that I do believe it's a problem, but I also think that we can call it racism when it's not.
Right. So as far as I go, yeah, racism is a problem in America, but it's racism across the board. There's racism for whites to blacks, blacks to whites, and then throw in the Hispanic group. You know, there's some racism towards that too.
For sure.
And then, of course, you've got many groups. You've got Antifa. You've got some of the Black Lives Matter that's very hatred towards white people. You've got Nazis that are still around. You've got the KKK that's still around. So it exists. Is there, are people treated differently because they're Black? Yeah. I've my wife has been treated different even though she's just Hispanic, and so it exists. Now, here's the thing I don't agree with. Is it as bad as it's portrayed to be? I completely disagree. I think what happens a lot is the media is trying to make their money, so they throw a lot of headlines out because they know there's a bunch of stupid people out there that are going to read a headline or see a Facebook meme or something, and they're going to take that crap and they're going to run with it. And then it turns into something stupid like rioting and doing all that. They don't even know what they're out there for.
Yeah.
What are you going to accomplish? What are you hoping to accomplish? Where's your ideas again, like I mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
If there's racism truly and something can be done, let's do it.
Yeah.
Come up with the ideas. Let's hear them. But I think that's where it ends. I mean,
yeah.
There's a video that my wife showed me several years back that I love. And I reposted again this past week. Did you end up seeing that? Not yet?
What is it?
So it's a video. It's a bunch of different colored people, and they're all placed in a line. Guy says, I'm going to give you $100, whoever can cross the finish line first. But then he says, wait, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. If you can answer yes to any of these questions, you take 2 steps forward.
Right.
And he starts asking questions. And, like one of the questions is, did you grow up with a father figure in your home? All these people moved back. There's several Black people that are left behind. Then they ask more questions. Did you get a free education? Did you, were you able to always find the job you wanted? Did you ever have to worry about whether you were going to eat that night for supper? There were several Black people that were left at the starting line. Mm-hmm. And the guy that's running the show makes the point. Look back. It's no fault of your own It's the way society has placed everything. This is the deck they've been placed, and they've got to live it. So look at your surroundings. Be aware of what others might have to deal with. I mean, hopefully my wife doesn't get mad at me saying this. She did have to worry.
Yeah.
You know, she was given, say, $25 to survive on the week for supper or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rough life to live. Luckily, you know, and I had a good raising, a good home, and I don't know what I would have done if I were raised in that type of situation, and that's what they're having to live with. So that was a good video to give me perspective as a white person.
And I just want to finish, and I'll shut up because I know we're over time, but those things are a reality. I don't want to argue against anyone's reality. But what I would also challenge each one of us to never argue for your limitations.
Yeah.
Right? So I listened to Jay-Z a lot growing up. Probably know every single song from Jay-Z. So
Big Pimpin'?
Yeah. My point is, he grew up in the projects.
Okay.
He's like a billionaire now.
Yeah.
Don't argue for your limitations. Anything is possible for any of us. Some of us have been given a harder road. Own it and let that fuel you to be better, not worse. And I love all of you guys for listening. So spread the love. A lot of people need it right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues that we could have covered, but we don't have time just because this is such a big topic. So we get it. There's a lot. We'd love to cover a lot more.
And all the things that I said that hurt your feelings, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We are very grateful that you listened. We are grateful for the comments. We've had a lot of people talking to us that want to get on the show, share some opinions, share their knowledge, share their skills.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming, y'all.
Keep it coming. We love it. We hope things turn around for you, whether it's COVID that's caused you issues lately, whether it's the racial issues that have come up, or police brutality. Keep in mind, if we get rid of police, all hell will break loose. And unfortunately, studies show that black on black crime will increase and the black community will be more affected than anyone, which sucks. So respect everyone.
Love your neighbor and stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah. Y'all be safe. We appreciate this open discussion. Keep it coming. All right, Alton, say bye.
Adios.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real-life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.